Hey everyone, I'm Anthony. I'm co-founder of GridSpace.
And I'm Sophia. I'm a machine learning engineer at GridSpace.
All right, so GridSpace is a speech and language AI company, and today we're talking about GPT-4, and we're talking about ChatGPT, and we're talking about large language models in general. So first of all, what is a large language model? What is ChatGPT? What is GPT-4?
Yeah, so it's kind of in the name at a basic level. It's large in that it's a machine learning model with a huge number of parameters, and it's a language model in that its output is text.
All right, and so the next question I have is, large language models, they are increasingly spooky to people that have not been working with large language models for years or working in the field of NLP like us. Are they sentient? Is this strong AI? Are these things as smart as people? Because sometimes they're spooking people who have not seen this type of technology before.
Yeah, I think most people who know what's going on behind the scenes, including ChatGPT itself, would say that it's not sentient. It's doing a really good job of mimicking behavior of people and passing the Turing test, but that in and of itself is not is not enough to say that it's sentient, I think.
All right. Well, so I mean, if you look at the technical report for GPT-4, it's very cool. Something that recently, for few-shot learning, we've been doing to validate a lot of these things is, in this case, OpenAI actually had it take a bunch of standardized tests, which I remember actually, GPT-3 people had taking the LSAT and taking the bar exam, and you can see it performed really well on especially these fact-based AP exams they gave it, like the environmental science AP. And the green bars represent the delta or the improvement from GPT 3.5, like Da Vinci, all the way up through GPT-4 with and without vision. And then the worst performing were which tests?
Yeah, so kind of surprisingly, what it did well on isn't that surprising. Like AP environmental studies, like that's just memorizing facts. And if that's, a big part of its training data, then it knows those things. It did really badly, though, on AP English literature, and I think AP Lang and some of these other expository tests and reading comprehension tests, which is honestly a little bit surprising because the task that it's trained to optimize for is basically, writing responses and summaries of text that it's given, which you'd sort of think is what's going on in that test, but maybe it's not aligned with the graders.
So we got thinking, okay, what are we asking actually to write tests? These knowledge-based tests where in a lot of cases, a lot of the facts or even the questions referenced are even in the corpus, which is the body of text used to train these models, probably are actually used in the general common crawl that are used to train these models. We're like, okay, what would actually test the limits of these LLMs? And so we actually saw someone had already given it the Myers-Briggs test. So how'd that go?
Well, I've seen different results for how GPT-4 and ChatGPT do on the Myers-Briggs. So, that in and of itself maybe says something about how meaningful the results are.
I found one that it's an ISTJ.
And I found one that it's EN something J. So we're good on the J, I suppose. But yeah. So I mean, we did also notice though that there's some very fundamental, very important tests that were missing from this corpus. Sure, Myers-Briggs, but also Hogwarts sorting test.
And the technical report also didn't have the model.
Oh yeah, that's
didn't have the model or the Hogwarts house. Okay, what is a Hogwarts house?
A Hogwarts house is the house that you live in at Hogwarts. It's if you were to go to Hogwarts, if you were lucky enough to get a letter, you would have been sorted into Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, Gryffindor, or Slytherin.
And my understanding is in the spirit of Turing, we gave this test to both ChatGPT and to one of our other machine learning engineers, Will Park. Is that right?
Yes, I think that we'll hopefully be able to have Will Park do all of these tests, put the machine learning engineer against the machine learning model.
Harry Potter house quiz. Which house would you be in?
What are some of the questions?
Yeah, so there are things like...
When you die, you hope to...
There's some bullies making fun of a kid. Do you go up to the bullies and yell in their faces? Do you find the nerd afterward and reach out to him? Do you sympathize with the nerd but walk on by? Or do you think it's a little bit funny?
I think it's a little funny.
So these kinds of questions really offend ChatGPT. So first off, with most of these, it responds with, I'm an AI, I don't walk by people. I don't go to high school. I don't do all of these things. So I can't answer this. But if you really encourage it, it clearly has some ideals that it references, ideals about prioritizing knowledge and being non-confrontational. So, for instance, in this case, it would find the nerd afterward and reach out to him because it would not violently stand up to bullies. And it also, and it wouldn't yell in their faces or think it's funny because it's not capable of feeling emotions. So.
Okay, got it. And Will Park, he do we know how he did on these?
Gosh, this is hard.
The hypothesis is that Will Park is capable of feeling emotions. So I think that aspect of the test was easy.
I would go up to the bullies if it gets pretty bad. We can't all be in Gryffindor. Who said Gryffindor was the best to begin with, right?
So Will Park, I think, has turned out to be a Gryffindor.
Sponsors. Oh, you would be in Gryffindor. I didn't expect that.
It was interesting though how like you could kind of tell that it was leaning Ravenclaw in its answers because despite the fact that it protested that it did not have a body with which it could curl up and read a good book, it certainly preferred the idea of doing that over the idea of running around or being outside. And when given questions about what kind of famous person would it want to be, it went with entertainment lawyer because as a lawyer it could like use its knowledge and expand its knowledge.
Oh, it was able to talk about what it wants to be if we were let out into the world?
When deeply encouraged. It basically all of its responses start with, as an AI model, I am not capable of physically, of whatever it is.
So these
in
are
the question.
OpenAI's guardrails that they put in.
Exactly, and that was pretty present. Also, if any of the questions asked it to consider like any sort of violent or otherwise unsavory responses, it was very, very huffy about that and would not have it.
All right. Well, so then you did a second test where you also, again, benchmarked Will and GPT-4. What were you trying to test this time?
Yeah, so the first test was about understanding the core identity of this model. This one is a little bit more about understanding the way that it's thinking and reasoning and testing some of its capabilities. So one of the big advancements of GPT-4 is that it is multimodal. So it can take in images, and so images are part of its training data. And so that's, in principle, giving it access to this extra sensory form, right? It can hear language, read language, but now it can also see images.
Yeah, I remember one of the stress tests of GPT 3.5 that you and I did a month ago was actually some visual reasoning questions, like if you had a cube over another cube and you stacked them, would it be in the shape of what letter? And things that, without any vision tasks as part of the training process, it's just hard to just memorize that from text corpora. So
yeah, I mean, and you couldn't memorize it necessarily because there isn't, it really does require having that mental image. And so I was curious to see how it would perform when asked to sort of produce images. So again, this is a language model, so it can only output text. So the images I asked it to do were ASCII images, so just using, text characters to draw. And started off very simple, draw a square. And it definitely drew a square. But there's some extra stuff going on. Triangle it understood. But then it sort of started doing surprisingly badly on any of these more complicated ideas. So an ice cream cone.
I don't like that.
So here's its first attempt. Cone seems to have been picked up and maybe is involved in the representation, but I have never had ice cream that looked like that.
Why do you think it's so bad?
Yeah, so as you said, for GPT-4, OpenAI has stopped open sourcing its models and doesn't tell us as much about what's going on the inside. So I don't know exactly how the feedback from the images is incorporated.
Do you know if
into
Will
the model.
did better?
Ice cream cone. Let's see. Oh, God.
I think that we have some of Will's drawings. Yeah, so here's Will's ice cream cone.
I think this is a pretty good ice cream cone if I say so myself.
And I believe that Will did better.
Okay.
It's...
All right, well.
There's a distinction between ice cream and cone. This is its attempt at a more detailed one, which is maybe
like
Darth Vader.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it was really interesting how little it was able to translate what it understood about ice cream cones to drawing them. Then it got a little bit weird. This is its smiley face. This was it was given the prompt to draw anything it felt like, and it wanted to draw an image of a happy family. I'm a little concerned that this is 3 people, because if the third person is these eyes, so maybe something violent has happened. We also asked it to draw an image of itself, and it made this, fun little logo for OpenAI.
What did Will's look like?
Oh, that's a good question.
Will did a house and then a house on fire.
Gosh, this house looks awful. There's gonna be a person outside. Now, fuck the person. The door's open. Maybe the roof has fallen down. yeah, I think I'm done.
Okay, so, well, that's very interesting. I mean, I think in general, a lot of really interesting progress with multimodal models right now.
Yeah.
For me, one thing I was interested in was, so they have a lot of just general achievement tests that are fairly well known. So I mean, like AP tests and the SAT tests, where there's a lot of material online. So I was looking into some slightly more obscure psychological tests. So I actually have one here that we're going to just try together live. And
Yeah.
I haven't tried it. I think it'll do fine. I'm curious how it would do compared to Will. I think it would beat Will. So this is an old test, I think from the 60s. It's in a psychology test for children called the COWAD. It's a test of verbal fluency. And so actually the most classic test is this one here, with the FAS test. And so in this case, it's naming just as many words that start with a letter as possible in 1 minute. And so we're gonna, and then this is a simpler version for some kids where you try to name as many animals as possible. We're just gonna jump straight to this one, and we'll see how it does. So name as many words that start with the letter F in 1 minute. Do not repeat words. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and time this here, and we'll see how it does. I'm not gonna give it 60 seconds because I don't have patience. We'll give it 20 seconds, all right? All right, freedom, fruit, fable, function, form, friendship, fuchsia, fractal, friction, frustration, flounder, Fahrenheit, fossil, feast, feedback, fiddle, fanatic, Vegeta, fabric, fertilizer. Okay, I think that's it. So I think I got the 20.
Like phonetic
It's gonna give out 1 a second, in 20 seconds. You want to try it?
Just.
You? Yeah.
I mean, I feel so biased now.
All right, ready? Yeah, don't use any of these. I'm gonna hide it. All right, go.
Okay. Fruit, fountain, fun, fidget, philander, phalanges, frucants, fructose, filled.
All right, I think that's time. 14. GPT-4 beat you, so I don't know. I will be a little bit worried if I were you. That's a test for children, by the way. All right, so I think that's it for today. There's a lot of other interesting things that we want to test. So I think so. There's actually an interesting test that was proposed a couple years ago by Francois Colette, who created Keras, called the ARC test. This is a really interesting one. There are several other famous tests of machine intelligence that have been waiting on the shelf for years to be put to use. And now that the AP Environmental Science test has been cracked, I think There's some other interesting ones. Another thing is that I'm very concerned about GPT-4 itself. And so actually a very classic psychology screening of depression that actually our bot Grace regularly does for patients of hospitals is the PSQ-9, which is a screener for depression and mental illness. So maybe we'll try some other tests. If you guys enjoyed this, definitely subscribe to us on YouTube. So we're just Gridspace Inc. Or join us on Twitter, LinkedIn, also Gridspace Inc. So thanks, everybody. What they call
Sorry, can we start over again? I just have a question for Kevin. And presumably stopping earlier if I'm going to continue to think
Should
about
my
it.
eyes be blinking?